All right, I'm always waiting for that random lady to come in going, this meeting's being recorded. So it just jump scares me. But hey everyone, so today we're gonna go over business models. This workshop will hopefully give you some ideas and important things to consider as you start constructing your case comp presentations. And yeah, so let's get started. If you have any questions throughout this presentation, just drop them in the chat. I'm running all of this on one monitor, so it's a little bit cramped, but I'll try to catch them hopefully. But if there's any questions I missed, Kelsey, can you let me know?
Yeah, no problem.
Thanks. All right. So in this workshop, we'll first talk about what a business model is. Then we'll go over components of a business model. Then we'll talk about types of revenue streams, move into some relevant business models for your case comp teams, and then we'll go into a fun little guessing activity. Yeah, so let's get started. So first, we have to ask the question of what even is a business model? A business model is pretty much your company's core strategy for operation. It's asking the question, what are we doing? What is our structure? And essentially, it's asking the question of how are we going to make money? So a successful comprehensive business model considers a bunch of different factors. I've boiled it down to 9 components for this presentation that you should know when constructing your business model. When we go through examples later in this presentation, you'll kind of notice how these components kind of weave themselves through. So the first thing to note is key partners. So this is referring to the relationships that help our business model work. So this can be your business partners, your suppliers, your manufacturers, and anybody else who plays a key role in making your product successful. And then after that is key activities. So key activities can mean a million different things because all businesses are different. But key activities pretty much just ask the question of what are the most important actions we must do as a business? And then after that is value proposition. So you've most likely heard this phrase a million times in different classes and case competitions, but value proposition is just asking the question of why? Why do you have to exist? What is the benefit of your product or service? And then moving on, we have these two here. These go hand in hand with each other, and that's customer relationship and customer segment. So these ask 2 questions in regards to the customer, as the title might suggest. Customer relationship asks the question of how. How are we going to engage with the customer? And then customer segment, they ask the question of who. That is, who are we targeting? Who is our demographic? And then here we have our 6th component, and that's key resources. And that asks, what do we have and what do we need? This can include more than just physical stuff. It can include intellectual resources, human resources, and also financial resources. Just gonna check the chat real quick. Did I miss anything? All right. So then we have our last 3. So these are distribution channel, cost structure, and revenue stream. So distribution channel asks the question, how is the product going to get to our consumer? If you've done like the supply chain case competition a couple quarters back, you guys are probably already a little bit familiar with distribution channels. But if you aren't, that's just answering the question of what are all the intermediaries you have to get through to get your product from where you are all the way to the consumer. And then moving on, we go on to cost structure. So that's considering the financial and accounting side of your business, and it's factoring the costs and expenses that are required for your business. And then here we have our final component, we have revenue stream. So for this one, we're actually going to go into more detail and break this one down. But in terms of just isolating each component to a question, revenue stream is asking, how are we going to make money? And spoiler alert, there's a lot of different ways to make money. So let's get into types of revenue streams. So here are the main different types of revenue streams. And I think by the title, they're all pretty self-explanatory, but we'll go through them. Asset sale refers to buying physical products. So all the items you buy in stores, those are all examples of asset sales. Usage fee refers to any services you buy. And then if you make those services reoccurring services, then you have subscription fee. And then after that, we have brokerage fee. Brokerage fees refer to seller commissions. So an example of this is if you buy a house, the realtor gets a commission for helping sell the house, and that brokerage fee is the commission, which is the percentage of the sale. And then next up, we have advertising fees. advertising fees are the main source of revenue for most television and sports media. So you'll never see a football game that isn't, this game is sponsored by XX and X. And then after that, we have licensing. And licensing is just somebody paying you to get permission to use your product. So you see that a lot in like the music industry. And yeah, so those are all the different types of revenue streams. As we go through this presentation, note how the different business models takes into account these types of revenue streams. So now we're going to dive into some relevant business models. Honestly, there's like a million different types of business models, but I chose some that I think are going to be attractive towards startups, aka your case comp teams. So yeah, so let's dive right into these. So our first model is the freemium model. So this model is most commonly seen in like mobile games and apps. In this model, you offer a product for free with either limited use time or limited features, and then users will have to pay to get the full experience. So two examples here are the apps Clash of Clans and Dragonvale. These are both mobile game apps. They're free to play, but they both have in-game mechanics that are motivated to restricting a player's experience unless they pay for like in-game items and currency. So I think like Clash of Clans, I haven't played since middle school, but I think in Clash of Clans you pay for like elixir and then you can like build items faster. So yeah, so you can play the game for free, but they want you to spend money. And then that kind of transitions into our next one, where it's kind of similar to freemium, except there's differences there. So this one's the hidden revenue model. So it's similar in that the user doesn't have to pay, or they're not being forced to pay. But the difference is that the user isn't going to have to pay anything throughout the entire time of using the product. So in this model, the business gets revenue from another source that isn't directly seen by the consumer. So most examples use advertising. So we have two examples here, that's Twitter and Google, where you can use both apps for free, but you will run into advertisements. But on the bright side, they're never going to ask you to pay $5 to send a tweet. And then next up, we have product as a service. So in this one, it's pretty much as the name says, which is to sell a product and then combine it with subscription or some kind of service. Examples of these are solar panels, in where you purchase the solar panel, but you also pay reoccurring fees for maintenance, upgrades, and other miscellaneous parts. And then we also see product as a service models being widely used in like the software market. So here we have IDC, which is the International Data Corporation. And then the benefit of the product as a service model is that it allows for ongoing interaction and revenue. And this model is usually associated with something called the circular economy model, where it kind of like shows how money is sort of funneled as its way and kind of goes out and then comes back. Not really going to go too much into detail on that, but it'll pretty much allows for companies to both sustain themselves and grow. And I encourage you guys to look that up whenever you have a chance. Let's see, there's something in chat. Next up,
Wait,
moving
Brandon,
on.
I had a question.
Yeah,
If
what's
it's
up?
okay, if you're taking questions. Does
Yeah, go
the
ahead.
freemium model, you said it applies when a business gives something for free for a limited amount of time. So does that include businesses when they give like a 1 month free trial, but then you have to start paying subscriptions? Or is that like more of a customer acquisition kind of strategy versus
I
business
think
model?
that's more of just like a marketing company acquisition kind of strategy. So that's more of like the subscriptions. Freemium is more, they don't have to pay, like, yeah, you just don't really have to pay, but they want you to pay. Whereas in your model, after a month, they just kick you off the platform unless if you don't pay.
Mhm.
So yeah, so that's what I would say is the main difference. But as you guys will notice throughout this presentation, is a lot of these business models kind of cross over with each other. So we had product as a service, and then you're going to see something that looks very similar to that later on in this presentation. So just keep that in mind as we go through.
Thanks, Brandon.
Yeah. So moving on, we have a business model that has always been really popular, but kind of exploded recently in the age of streaming, and that's subscriptions. So in subscriptions, the company pays a fixed amount, or the customer pays a fixed amount every month or year for access to a server or a service. And this business model comes with a lot of benefits. First, it includes the reoccurring reliable revenue that we talked about in the last example with product as a service. And it also allows for increased market segmentation and tiered pricing. So you can definitely see increased market segmentation with streaming services, as there's pretty much a streaming service for literally every niche of media. And then with tiered pricing, it allows you to price discriminate and capture profits that you wouldn't get if you charged a single uniform price. So in terms of examples here, we have MoviePass and Disney Plus. MoviePass was a service that went bankrupt a couple years ago, but you could pay different tiers, and depending on the tier you bought, it would allow you to see X amount of movies in theaters. And then we also have Disney Plus, and that's Disney's streaming service. So next, we have peer-to-peer businesses. So these are really popular nowadays. With pretty much everybody having a smartphone, this type of business has been huge. And in a peer-to-peer business, two individuals can buy and sell directly with each other without having to talk to any company representatives or employees. So in this model, the company serves as just as a platform or an intermediary, and revenue is gained from taking a percentage of whatever transactions the users make. So here, for example, we have Airbnb and Uber. But in like the age of quarantines and pandemics, food delivery apps like DoorDash and Uber Eats are also really good examples, and they're currently the shining stars of the peer-to-peer business model. And then after that, we have the flex pricing business model. So in flex pricing, the final price is open to negotiation, or it can vary. They can vary the price depending on the customer. So this is most commonly seen in tailor-made and custom services. So examples are tailors, carpenters, specialty chefs, anything where it's a custom product. And then the good part about flex pricing is that you can change your prices according to changes in the market. And then for examples here, we have a tailoring company, and then we also have Amtrak. So they don't have direct negotiation with the customers, but as a customer, there's ways for you to negotiate your way around the price. Prices on tickets are dependent on several factors, such as when you buy the ticket, where you're going, and things like age. So like a senior citizen may get cheaper tickets than a 20-year-old man. And yeah, so that's flex pricing. And then this next one, this is pretty brief, and that's fractionalization. So in fractionalization, you can either sell items in its complete form, or you can sell for partial usage. So here we have literally the most literal example of fractionalization, which is the pizza shop. So you can either buy the whole pizza, or you can buy slices of a pizza. And then in a much more expensive example, we have NetJets. NetJets is a private aircraft company where you can buy shares in private jets. So if you ever become a millionaire in the future, maybe that's something that might be interesting to you guys. Chat. Okay. So this one is going to be our last example that we go over today, and that's the razor and blade model. So this model, you've seen it in your economics classes. And in this model, one item is sold at a low price, while a complementary item is sold at a higher price. And then the usual example you hear is printers, where you sell the printer, but you also get revenue because customers have to buy ink. So here we have HP, and that represents that example. And another example, one that I really love using, is Keurig coffee. So it's at-home coffee. You buy the coffee machine for a premium price, but the coffee K-cups that you need to use the coffee machine are relatively inexpensive, depending on which you buy. Some are more expensive than others. But with the razor and blade model, it's best to use if the associated item you're selling will be a reoccurring purchase. Because if you think about it, it doesn't really make much sense if you're going to sell something only once and sell it for cheap. But with the complementary items being sold at a lower price, you're going to continue to get revenue because they're going to buy it over and over and over again. And yeah, so that's the last business model. And now we're going to go jump into an activity. Let's check the chat. Okay. So yeah, so in this fun little activity, we're just going to test your understanding of business models. So here in Guess That Business Model, I'll show you a company and a selection of business models. And it'll be your job to figure out which business model this company uses, and you'll be able to type your answers in the Zoom chat. So does that sound good to everybody? All right. So our first one is Zoom. You guys are all probably familiar with that since we're on it right now. So what type of business model is Zoom? Is it hidden revenue, freemium, razor and blade, or nickel and dime? All right, we're seeing a lot of freemiums. Freemium. All right, good. Yeah. So Zoom is a freemium model. So users can use Zoom for free with limited use. That limited use is the meeting time limit or the number of users you can have in your call. But users can buy premium plans to get access to more features. So good job, guys. Next one, we have Apple and iPhones. So what type of business model is this? Is this razor and blade, fractionalization, subscription, or hidden revenue? All right, I see a lot of razor and blades. Good, good, good. All right, yeah. So this is the razor and blade model. So with Apple and iPhones, users can buy iPhones at a premium price, but most apps and additional features on the phone are free or relatively cheap. So you'll spend $1,200 on an iPhone, but most apps are either free or $1, and like the most expensive app you'll probably find is like $10, unless the app itself has a subscription, but that goes into an entirely different business model. Yeah, good job, guys. Next, we have AMC theaters. So what type of business model is this? Is this flex pricing, fractionalization, peer-to-peer, or hidden revenue? Good. All right, so yeah, AMC is flex pricing. So AMC can segment their market by offering different prices, and they have prices based on time, day, customer age, etc. So you have your matinee prices. Your At my local theater, if you go on a Tuesday, it's cheaper. You have your senior citizen discounts, your kids discounts, all that. So Kelsey asked if it was hidden revenue from ads. So it could be seen as hidden revenue, but one of the big parts of hidden revenue is that you don't have to pay throughout the experience, but you have to pay to get into the movie theater. So I think in this sense, it would be more flex pricing. Yeah. So next one, Facebook. So what type of business model is this? Is this razor and blade, fractionalization, subscription, or hidden revenue? All right, yeah, you guys got this one quick. This one was pretty easy. All right, good. So yeah, Facebook is hidden revenue. Consumers can use Facebook services for free. You'll never be asked money to send out a post. And then Facebook generates revenue from advertising. Recently, they've gone into a lot of hot water over that, but that's a topic for a different time. Could it also be peer-to-peer? Yes, aspects of it could be peer-to-peer. Yeah, Facebook Market, that would be an example of peer-to-peer. All right, so this one's going to be our last one. Here we have 3 companies. We have Marriott Vacation Club, Disney Vacation Club, and buyatimeshare.com. So what business model is this? Is this razor and blade, fractionalization, subscription, or hidden revenue? This one I think is probably the most difficult of them all. Seeing some fractionalizations, seeing some subscriptions. All right, let's see what it is. It's the fractionalization model, because these are all timeshares. So you're buying shared ownership of a property, and you're only allowed to use it for an allotted amount of time. So you're not buying the whole property. You're paying X amount of money to say you own property, but you can only go like for a week in a year. So it's fractionalization. Yeah, just one slice of the property pizza. Yeah. So those are all the business models I have today, but there's like a million more different business models out there. So I definitely encourage you guys to look out for those. And if you had any questions about any of these, definitely reach out to me. And thanks for listening.
Thanks so much, Brandon.